All right. Well, thank you for everyone that's now joined us. It's great to see so many folks here live with us. I'm Jason Nazar, the co-founder and CEO of Comparably. Very honored to have Ryan Smith, the co-founder and CEO of Qualtrics. We're going to be talking about critical lessons from past downturns today. And so we're also going to be taking your questions. So please go ahead and in the Q&A section, put in what you're going through, what your companies are going through. We're going to take the second half of this live webinar today to address the topics that are going on in your lives and with your work. And Ryan, maybe just for background, can you tell everybody a little bit about Qualtrics overall and then, your bio as well?
Yeah, so I'm Ryan Smith. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Qualtrics. We started in 2002. We operate in about 25 different countries. We're all over the world. We've got offices co-headquartered in Provo, Utah, and Seattle, Washington. We have an experience management platform. We developed a category called experience management probably about 3.5 years ago. And basically, we're allowing organizations to license Qualtrics and have in one single view their customer experience, which is every transaction and the pulse of their customers and what's going on, their employee experience. Most of the customer problems we see, typically there's some sort of employee connection or tie. So employee engagement, the best and most advanced employee experience companies are the ones that normally have the highest customer satisfaction as well. Those are directly correlated. And then the product and the brand experience. And we've created a system where it all goes together with one license, one company, one platform. And it actually really drives the experience of an entire company together. If you think about, who's the person that owns experience in a company? It's our organizations are actually set up fragmented. And that's why experience is so hard. And so we said, hey, either we're going to go around and get every organization to organize and operate a different way, or let's just develop a software that allows them to get on the same page this way. And that's what we've done.
Fantastic. And I don't know if you know this, but Qualtrics was part of the inspiration for what we do at Comparably. For those of you out there that don't know, we're an employee review platform and help companies with their employer brand, recruitment marketing. We're also a platform where we collect customer data. And so we're really here to help organizations be able to tell the story of what's going on with their teams publicly, to be able to help explain how they're interacting with their customers. And very honored to have Ryan, you and Qualtrics as a customer. You all have an incredible company culture. We'll talk about that a little bit later today. And I've been in the arena here for a long time. So I remember when you were starting and growing Qualtrics. I was a couple of years after you. I started my last venture-backed business in 2006. That was a company called DocStock. We sold it to Intuit. And I've been pretty active here in LA trying to help out a lot of founders and folks in their career for the last 2 decades. And certainly have looked to you, Ryan, and your co-founders and your team as inspiration of how to just build an incredible business. I see a lot of people start companies where they feel like, we're going to spend a year or 2 here and have this huge outcome. And, not many people know that you're a 17-year overnight success. And so that's something we're excited to talk about here today. One of the things I thought we could kick it off with is you have these incredible resources right now for how organizations are polling their teams about what's going on with COVID and coronavirus. I think you mentioned 12,000 organizations are now doing this. Could you share a little bit more detail there?
Yeah, I think, look, so first of all, I hope everyone's being safe. Thanks for tuning in. It's a crazy time. I think when we went through and kind of started to see a couple weeks ago, fortunately or unfortunately, we have a massive presence in Seattle. It's our co-headquarters. And we started to see what was happening early on before it had hit really Utah and some of these other places. And one of the things we had to do was cancel our user summit, which was 16,000 people coming to Salt Lake. And it was about a week and a half ago, the end of March. And we had to make a couple decisions. What are we going to do as a company? And having gone through 2008 and 9, one of the things that I feel like we regretted a little bit, but we ultimately figured out was how are we going to help during this time? And so this time we just went right at it. and we said, hey, what can we do? When everyone started working from home, this was the very first thing that we wanted to attack. So we created Qualtrics.com here to help, and we created the ultimate employee pulse, so organizations could keep track and pulse their employees, and they could do it for free on Qualtrics. And so we launched that solution. It's been amazing. I think that, you know, a lot of employees or employers have maybe an employee engagement program or something they do annually. This is not the time. You know, we need to be communicating with our employees and asking every single person in this situation, which is fluid, by the way. So we need to be asking them week to week, how are you doing? Are you okay? What do you need? What is it that you need that we can help with? And then how can we help you feel productive? And so we launched these out. Like I said, we've got 12,000 organizations that have signed up on them. They're completely free, no strings attached. And then we also launched one for teachers. You know, they're going through something that they've never gone through before. I'm watching these teachers try to, you know, teach my kids from a distance right now, and they're not set up for this. I mean, one teacher was just flat out like, the benefit I have is getting the kids live in the classroom. This is so hard for me. And then we launched the ability for states to actually start assessing COVID through a Qualtrics assessment. And we've got the state of New Jersey. We've got Seattle helping with daycare needs. It's just been phenomenal to see. The CEO of SAP went on yesterday on Kramer and was talking about these and how, you know, this has been one of the bright spots, even though it took a couple days of all-nighters from our engineering teams of this for us. I feel like we're in a position to help. So that's what you do.
That's fantastic. Well, thanks for what you're doing there. All right. So there are a lot of people right now, Ryan, that in their careers maybe have not gone through a downturn before, or in a position where their first time as a manager or a company leader. You know, you started the company soon after the 2001 financial crisis. You obviously lived through 2008. What feels different about this time, and how should both company leaders and employees be trying to prepare for what's ahead?
Yeah, I think this is different. They're all different. You know, I think it was a mortgage crisis. And, you know, when we started in 2001, 2002, we were really in the shadow of the .com, and people were fearful. I remember thinking, okay, we're really going to go do a startup. Everyone was rushing towards different career paths than they were 3-4 years earlier. And we remember these things. You know, it's no different than when, you know, you've got grandparents or folks who have grown up or went through the Depression, that they learn from it. And I think that anyone in their career who's going to be working specifically in tech, if that's what everyone on this call is, which the majority are, you're going to go through something like this. It probably won't be the same. You know, we've got different catalysts that are actually driving these, you know, dips. I don't think anyone would have thought it was COVID. One was a mortgage crisis. So you're going to go through them, especially if you're running startups. I mean, you mentioned it as you started the call. You know, people think they're going to come in for a startup, and in 5 years, they're going to be in and out, and they're going to be on to the next. That's just not the way the world works. The difference between this one is, I remember in 2008, we literally got our teams together and we said, hey, there's a recession going on. We're 40 people. We didn't have any venture funding. We were targeting the academic community. And really, we had to get everyone together with a belief that we were going to buck the trend. We were going to come up with a solution. We offer massive value for our customers. And how do we make sure that we can grow during this time? And this was exactly what we ended up doing. Where it's a little harder now is, I can't look around the rooms and grab our people and huddle up together. We're kind of divided from within. Not only that, every single person is at home for the most part, with a whole nother set of challenges that they're concerned about, not only with their immediate family members, but folks that they know in safety. And this is requiring like the ultimate multitask of every single person. And, you know, and really, I feel like every single person is getting the feeling of what it's like to be a CEO, because there's no playbook. You've got to manage polar opposite emotions, right? And you literally have to wake up every single morning going, okay, I got to go conquer the world somehow with everything else going on, and lead my people, whether it's your own family or whoever, to a destination. And, you know, as I've woken up every day for the last 3 weeks, it's been very much that same feeling I had when we were in the basement and we were going, okay, how are we going to go charge the hill together? The difference is from my little spot here, I've got to go and help mobilize and provide certainty for 3,000 employees.
Yeah.
And that's hard. It's challenging. And
so let's
we're learning a lot.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a moment. There are a lot of executives on here and managers of teams that may be going through this for the first time. How should folks be thinking about leading in a time like this? I know you have your 5 core values, your tacos, but you know, what extra things do people need to do right now that they may not have had a thought about or worried about before?
Well, so now's the time to know, if I'm looking out as a CEO, I'm going to know real quick who my leaders are and who my leaders aren't. You know, we always say that we want to pattern behavior in our organization off the competent, not the confident. And sometimes people mix those up. Confidence is not really what's going to drive this right now. It's who's competent and who's going to actually go and lead. And I would argue over the last 11 years, leadership has been super important. But as I look out in Utah or even in tech, it seems like everyone was winning, right? And so almost it was hard to tell the difference between who was truly leading and who was just riding the wave that we've all been on. And so now is the time where I see leadership mattering in a way that that we probably haven't seen it before. And there's, you know, you've heard the saying that there's wartime leaders who step up and go. The one thing that we're seeing in our organization is, as I look out at my leaders, my true leaders are the ones that are proactively communicating on a daily basis with their entire team. They're the ones that are able to manage and keep people focused and provide certainty through uncertain times. One of the things I've seen over the last 20 years is people can handle change. People can handle this change from going from working in an environment to working at home, to changing our positioning, to cutting costs. People don't do well with uncertainty. And that's where anxiety and stress comes in. And the stress levels right now, from all the data that we're seeing over 12,000 organizations, is really on a weekly basis, you know, culminating to an all-time high. And so leaders are the ones that are going to alleviate that and help that through communication and driving. And you know, I really believe that now is the time where those leaders are stepping up. And you know, you're seeing organizations that aren't doing a great job. They're not reaching out to their employees and saying, are you okay? You know, they're not pulsing them. You know, and one of the reasons why we offer these solutions is because, you know, during these times, data becomes a premium. And, you know, you would think that you don't need data right now. Data will tell you what you need to do, because you don't have time to mess up. You don't have time to get things wrong right now. This is what we learned in 2008 is time. If your next 4 moves are all correct with the biggest impact, your organization, your team, your culture will thrive. And it's worth actually getting the data so you have the full picture and you know exactly what to do. And in reality is it probably didn't matter as much over the last 2 or 3 years, or the premium wasn't at the same level on being correct or right that it is right now.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a moment longer. Obviously that's what we do at Comparably too. We provide software to let teams poll their employees to create public representations. I think there are a lot of leaders right now that have concerns about reaching out to their employees or even their customers because of what folks are going through. How would you encourage them to think, and maybe what are some specific best practices on that outreach that will help them get that information they need?
Yeah, I think that concern needs to go out the window. That's part of communication right now. Just do it the right way. And the right way is first, and we publish this in the Wall Street Journal, you've seen this out there. If you go to Here to Help, the very first question is, are you okay? Mm-hmm. Are you okay? And that changes. We're seeing a big difference to that the answer to that question internally based on where you are. If you're in Spain or you're in Italy or you're in the UK versus you're in Seattle or Utah, everyone's having a different experience right now. But you need to know whether someone is okay. No one's going to get upset with you, or it's not going to be invasive when you're asking someone, are you good? You good? Right? The second is, what do you need? What is it that you need right now? What are you worried about? Is it food? Mm-hmm. Is it, I need social, some sort of social connection? That's the one thing we're seeing in the data that's driving a lot of anxiety. We shift. I dialed into 4 different happy hours over Zoom last week. Mm-hmm. And I'm literally kind of clicking, and am I really doing this? This is kind of cheesy. But then you get on and it's like everyone feels better. I was on with 12 tech CEOs, and that's one of the things that we were there. And these are all companies that we know and love, but we were just talking, and they just wanted to talk at a CEO level to say, hey, whoa, everyone else is kind of dealing with the same stuff we are. And then lastly, and we've broken this down to 3 questions. What do you need to feel productive? Because if everyone's sitting at home and they're not feeling productive, we're going to have massive mental health problems. Mm-hmm. You can't take productive people and then put them on the sideline for 4 weeks or however long it's going to be, and then not expect folks to not feel like themselves. And so we found that, not only from an economic standpoint, but from a cultural and societal standpoint, people need to feel like they're not, skipping a beat. That's what's helped me feel normal. The more normal my workday can feel, the better I feel with my family, with everything else. And society kind of needs us to power through this. And, we're finding that people are like, hey, I don't feel great because I don't have my home office set up. Mm-hmm. And there's no way to get it. We let every one of our employees go to the office, wherever they're at, take anything you want, right? Take your laptop, take your screen, take your chair. People are like, can I take the Pelotons? I don't know. But if they're gone, just bring them back, right? It's do whatever it is that you need to feel good. And I think that's how everyone needs to, act right now.
Yeah. I think that's really thoughtful. There are obviously a lot of, team members and employees who may not be in a management position that are, trying to figure out, how they can add value to their organizations. Obviously, a lot of businesses are in a position where they're having to lay off or furlough employees right now. From the perspective of an employee, what advice do you have for those folks of how to take care of themselves right now, but also to think about and prepare for this time over the next couple months?
Yeah, this is really the time, unless you're coming out of school, this isn't really the time to be thinking, okay, what's my career path? What's going on? This is a all hands wartime on deck situation. This is the time to step up if you're, an employee not in a leadership role, or if you are in a leadership role, because it's not the time to have the opposite effect of that, which is, oh, this is hard, I think I'm going to jump ship. First of all, you don't know what you're jumping into, right? Now, sometimes, those decisions are going to be made for you based on how companies do in this downturn, unfortunately. But if you're in a spot where you're employed and you've got a good job, when that means security, you're going to be in a unique spot. There's a lot of people that I know that aren't going to be in that spot. There's a lot of tech folks. And this is the same thing that happened in 2008. I mean, we can't have 11 years of perfection without this happening. A lot of people, it's not that they've been super careless, just people have wanted to hire above and beyond where they are and really kind of get out over their skis and go. And, that gets brought back in. The companies that are not that far over, aren't going to have to bring it back in or have to make some of those tough decisions. So from an employee standpoint, show that you're really all in and you're ready to roll up your sleeves and go. And you will be noticed. You absolutely will be noticed. It might not be in the first week or the second week, but as an employer, as a CEO, when I look down and I see, or look around and I see, whoa, that person is not only stepping up in a time where your natural reactions to run, but you're reliable and you're all in and you're really facing the challenge. I mean, that's what you want to see during this time. And I remember that from 2008. I remember looking around as we got everyone together and saying, whoa, we all were doing things we had no business doing during that time. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing that I'm seeing during this time, especially as everyone's gone virtual. And I mean, I'm reaching out and communicating with people, and people are communicating with me that we probably wouldn't have communicated with. Because we're not seeing each other in an event, we're not walking up and making a connection, but the phone calls and the people that I'm talking to during this time, just, hey, how you doing? Like it's actually blowing my mind how this is working. And you have a chance to really develop a persona around who you are during this time. And I think it's working out, and will work out for a lot of employees.
Yeah. One of your team members, Mike, really thoughtfully brought up that, work's probably now forever changed in some regards, that there's going to be a workforce 2.0. From your perspective, what do you feel like is forever now changed about work, and where is this going over the next, 5, 10, 20 years?
Yeah. So I think we were already on a, what I would call a transition from formality, and how things were starting to become more informal. I think that Band-Aid just got ripped off altogether. At Silicon Slopes, we do a podcast with all of the companies in Utah and the government in Utah every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And watching Mitt Romney come on from his closet version or home office with his hair a mess, like, it's all gone now. Watching senators live stream from, Washington, D.C., that just wouldn't have happened. Watching, every age group, in order to be able to communicate with society, have to go through their own personal digital transformation. Digital transformation became more than a buzzword and actually became reality for absolutely every organization, not company, organization in the world, if they actually want to be a part of society right now. And if you think that people are now all of a sudden going to want to start going into banks after they've had to offer banks and work with banks online, that's going to be a hard shift to go back. If you think people are going to all of a sudden be like, oh no, let's go to that meeting, well, we could just Zoom, that's going to be a hard shift. If you think people are going to, not want stuff delivered from Amazon or other things, that's going to be a hard shift back, because now they've experienced the new normal.
Yeah.
And I would argue that almost all of these, outside of maybe our own social connections, are all a better experience than the way we used to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's way better when stuff's delivered. It's way better when, you can just easily communicate through a video chat. And that's where technology goes and really kind of locks in. This happened to us in 2008. We were targeting companies. No one was buying into it. We were trying to figure out how to break through to corporations and say, hey, you can get data in real time. It's cheaper, faster, better. They would say, no, we're going to outsource it, and we're going to get this data 3 months from now. And we're not budget constrained. The second people were saying, hey, I don't have a team, I don't have money, it's just me, Qualtrics took off. We were that new technology that people were experiencing.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cool how we came out of that downturn, and we were probably one of 10 companies in the downturn that went through that, and then we came out in first place and have never really looked back.
Can you talk about, your company culture? And I mean, you have amazing, feedback on Comparably. I'll pull it up in a moment. But, obviously in a time like this, that's more important than ever. You've got your 5 core values, your tacos, but, what do you feel like Qualtrics does different and better than organizations? And what should companies be looking to do at a time like this to go above and beyond to build a good culture?
Well, I think now is when your culture really comes through. I mean, period. I don't think culture really sets itself apart or stands up when everything's going perfectly. So I think if you look at, I think a culture is who you are when no one's around, what's your gut instinct, really what is it that drives when you don't have to, right? What just comes out, your first reaction, that's culture. We have something called tacos, which is something we created around who we really are as a organization. The first is we're super transparent, and now's the time where these values actually need to play out. So what am I doing on a daily basis right now to be transparent? And in reality is I'm trying to be real with people. I have no problem video conferencing with everyone in the company. Like, I'm going through this just the same way everyone else is. Let's just be transparent about everything that's going on. The second one is all in. And this is a very, very, very key, probably my favorite value that we have. Are you all in? There is nothing that I have done in my life, both personal on a career side, that has been good unless I'm all in. And, there's a lot of decisions we make, and people think about career where they're always hedging. If people always have one foot out on their career or the company they're working for, I'll just tell you now, nothing good is going to come out of your career, and you're just wasting time. And you're just getting older and wasting your valuable time. And so I only want to hire people that are all in. I only want to work with people that are all in, because that's just a prerequisite for, doing epic stuff. Like if you're not all in, you're not going to create anything great, because somewhere in some place there is a team that is all in on an idea that might not even be as good, or they might not be as talented as you, and they will do better by being all in than having a group of super talented people that, you know, are out interviewing or doing different things, right?
Yeah.
And that's my philosophy. I'm at a point in my life where I get to choose who I want to work with, and you know, I'm basically doing this because it's my passion at this point. I only want to work with people that are all in. I'll be all in if you're all in, and that's how we accomplish great stuff. The middle one on tacos is customer obsessed. Customers are at the forefront of everything. You know, in a time like this, how does that manifest? We're here to help our customers, and I don't know what it's going to take to help our customers right now. Every one of them's different, and I'll get back to that in a second. The second to last one is it's one team. Now is a time that we all need to be one team. It doesn't matter what department you're in, doesn't matter what your title is, what job you're at. This is why I said career path doesn't really matter. We're one Qualtrics right now, and we need to go help. And you know, it's crazy. We're doing these solutions to target government and work with different people. It's amazing who's volunteering and say, hey, I'm in, you know, or the work from home pulse. You know, we had engineers who just got sent home and they were pulling all-nighters when I know it's probably not what they wanted to do because they wanted to help. And now they get to look back and think and see the notes coming in of people that were able to actually check in on their employee base. And the last one's scrappy. This is a time where you're going to have to get creative. And some people are innovative. Some people are just followers. The scrappiness is what really, you know, separates in a time like this. Will you find a way? Because every probably normal thought you have about how to do something needs to be changed during a wartime. You just got to find a way. A story I'll tell you is when we went through in 2008, one of my biggest clients at the time was Philips Electronics out of Amsterdam. And they had an office in Atlanta. And Qualtrics was being used for all their customer research. Every time they would launch a new product they were testing. And I get a phone call in the middle of the downturn. And this is probably, you know, 10% of our revenue. And the gentleman says, hey, Ryan, my whole team in the office here is getting shut down. I've either got to move my family at a time like this to Europe, or I've got to leave. And so basically I'm getting laid off unless I'm moving, which I'm not doing at a time like this. So we lost everything with that customer. And then a week later, this gentleman, Joe, called me and said, hey, Ryan, is there anyone else that you know is looking for someone in my skill set? I can't get a job. And I said, look, honestly, I don't know anyone in Atlanta that fits that profile. However, here's a Qualtrics license. Go and find a consulting project because every single company needs data right now. Well, he called me up 2 weeks later and was working with Bell South on a customer segmentation based on how people were feeling right now, and wanted to know how much the license was going to cost because he had lined up a $30,000 consulting project. And I told him, hey, it's on us. We'll be all right. Just remember us. And as we started pulling out of the downturn, I remember he called us and he landed a job at Russell Athletic that was just purchased by Berkshire Hathaway. And he, first day, bought a Qualtrics license for more than the other one, turned it into Vanity Fair, Fruit of the Loom, Brooks Running. Now he's a Church's Chicken and has literally bought a license everywhere that he has gone. And just doing what's right from a cultural standpoint at a time like this, he'd be a Qualtrics champion. Even though we probably needed the money on his consulting project, but that's where culture shine right now. And everyone just needs to do what's right to help. And it'll come back. I mean, that came back tenfold.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, two more questions I've got for now. And then as a reminder to everybody on here, please put your questions in the Q&A section of Zoom. We're going to go ahead and open this up to your questions in a moment. Ryan, obviously you've got this incredibly interesting, long journey to have this amazing success that you and the team had. As you look back on your career and as you look at other leaders that have reflected on this, what do you feel like are the things that that you know today that you wish you knew then, and some mistakes that you made that other leaders can be learning from in a time like this?
I think it depends on what your role is. I think as a founder, if you're a founder or an entrepreneur, you need to just be really, really honest with yourself. You need to be honest with your company and where you're at, and really be able to call your shot. You need to be able to look ahead and say, hey, 6 months from now, we're going to be in a massive, financial position that's not going to be advantageous for our employees, for our customer. Make the changes you need to make now. Don't need to be arrogant right now. I think you just need to be real. And, we've all had to go through those times. I think the concern that I have is a lot of times we're slow and we're late to make those decisions. And I think that costs us, and it only makes it worse in situations like this. And that's hard because, you might look back and say, well, in 2008, you had a lot of confidence in your team and you guys were able to power through and do a lot that was different and experience incredible growth. There's times to do that. And then there's times not to do that. And I think right now we're still experiencing the 50-foot waves that are coming at us. And now's the time to just tie yourself to the boat and wait till the waves go. And if you can, once the water's calm again, that's where markets are won. Markets aren't won right now. We're all in just survival mode. And so everyone just needs to do what they need to do to survive and kind of wait this out, and try to be as productive as possible while they do it. There'll be plenty of time as things get better to be able to really go fast. And that's a hard mental shift for a lot of people, but it's true. It's exactly true. Some of the regrets I have in 2008, we didn't get ahead of it fast enough. I wasted months and months till we figured out what to do.
Yeah. All right. So on that note, kind of last question I have for now, what timeline horizon do you think we should be expecting for what we're going through now? If you're an employee, if you're a company leader, what's your perspective on when things start to a little bit return to some sense of baseline?
Yeah. The faster that we get out of this, the faster we recover. If you think back to 2008, it kind of all hit in 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, okay, there's the trough, right? Now we're on the way up. My concern here a little bit is that this is really, really slowly dripping out.
Yeah.
Which means it's going to be a lot slower to recover. It took us 18 to 24 months to kind of get back to normal before. That doesn't mean that this is going to take, twice that long, but it's going to be a slow recovery if we don't get ahead of making sure that this passes as soon as possible. And this is why it's so important that everyone, stays in place, as hard as it may be, from an economic standpoint, a career standpoint. Everything will get on faster if we get over this sooner.
Mm-hmm. And
there's empirical data that shows that the faster we get to the bottom, the faster we get out.
Yeah.
And we don't want this slow drip that's going on. And I think as Mike said, and as you brought up, the world's going to change a little bit, but I think, we've had an 11-year run. It's been unbelievable. It's not sustainable forever. It's okay if it's a little rocky, right? I think that we expect that. Everyone I know who's an investor expects that. But that's just part of, you know, the world we live in, and it's part of being responsible, and it's part of, you know, life. You have to go through this. And so that's the way I look at it. It's every 7 to 8 or 9 years, and your business needs to be able to operate in those times, and you need to be able to understand and call the shot of how your business is gonna operate in those times. You should know or have an idea what's going to happen 6 months from now in your business if this continues, and you know which customer segments or which employees or how everything plays out. And if you're prepared for that, then we hope for the best, and we hope we get out of this really quickly. Where I get fearful is when we don't have the honest conversation, or we don't know how to call our own shot 6 months from now, and then we're all like, oh, we didn't see that happening.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that. Like, we should be able to think through all of that and be surprised on the upside.
All right, we're going to transition now to your Q&A in here. So I'll read this out, Ryan. And why don't we try to go through this a little bit more quickly, just so we can get to as many folks' questions, and
let's do it.
Feel free to add yours. The first comes from an anonymous attendee. What advice do you have for professionals who are experiencing their first layoff?
Man, I don't think there's anything that prepares you for that. I think there's going to be a lot of layoffs, unfortunately. I mean, there's no way around it. I don't want to sugarcoat it and say that there's not. There's really not a lot you can say, besides you're going to have to get scrappy. And, you know, if there is one saving grace, it's not like you're the only company that's probably going through that. So when you re-enter and get with another company, it's probably not what did you do wrong. It's just, unfortunately, you know, we were in a market or an industry where it didn't bode well for a 2-month shutdown or however long it's going to be. What I will say is there will be plenty of companies hiring. It might need to happen once these 50-foot waves get past everyone, but there are definitely companies that are thriving. And, you know, sometimes it's an opportunity for people to look at a new industry and a new space. And that's what happened in 2002. People said, hey, look, I don't want to be in this spot again. I want to go to something a little more stable or a little more insulary.
Yeah.
So my thoughts are with you, though. It's not a good time. And you know, there's really no words to go through that. It's not like we don't have enough going on.
Yeah. It's an incredibly tough time for a lot of folks. You know, the one thing that I would just add to your feedback is tap into the networks of the people that know you best, because whether it's your manager or your coworkers, these are folks that can vouch for you. And at a time like this, there are still organizations that are going to be hiring that will ramp up. And anytime that you can get a warm intro or introduction, you know, if Ryan came to me and said, hey, Jason, I know this great person in Los Angeles that used to work for us, that would go to the top of my queue that I'd want to meet with. And so even if you may not think that your coworkers might have those connections, just rely on that. And I think there are a lot of employers that are going to be forced to have to do this, but I also think there are a lot of employers that are going to go above and beyond to try to help out any of their team members. And so go back to those teams and see what connections they have for you.
Yeah, it's also super inspiring to see communities. You know, I don't know if you all feel that, but I feel like communities are stepping up and helping each other in a way that I've never seen before. And I think it's really smart to leverage that.
We had a question a little more specific to your business. Do you feel that market research will suffer with end clients, and that there's any chance that there'll be reduced budgets on these studies?
I think, you know, I think you'll see two sides. You'll see, you know, data collection go down in some areas. I think you'll see organizations need to do it. If 2008's any indicator, they need to do it a little bit cheaper, but more and more organizations will want to know exactly what they need to do before they do it. I would argue that when things are going well, there's a lot of organizations that don't ask. They just go right from the hip pocket and execute. And we're already seeing signs that people want to be a little more cautious, a little more data driven. And it's simply a math game. When things are going well, you have almost unlimited bets you can make. There's not a lot of trade-off. When things get tight, you might go from being able to make 10 bets or 10 hires to, getting down to 2 or 3. They have to work. And this is where data comes in.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see that. We're starting to see that on the employee side. I mean, our employee experience is up, triple digits in the last 4 weeks. If you look at, if you're launching a new product right now, what's a day or two to test it to make sure it's right? Because the cost of getting it wrong could be compounding in this environment. And so, but I also think anyone who's working in a space where in any product, they need to figure out how to really make sure that their product is adding massive value so that someone who's fortunately has one of those bets to make, you're helping them, be able to be right, which will help them in their career, make a bigger impact. And that's what we saw. I mean, we turned a lot of people in 2008 into rock stars, right? Internally. That's also the same if you're interviewing for a job. If you're interviewing for a job right now and someone's willing to hire, you need to bring it. You need to prepare. You need to know everything about that company. This isn't the time where it needs to be, well, why would I go work for you, right? Do your homework, because I'll tell you, companies who are hiring, regardless, are going to go from being able to hire thousands to maybe only a few.
Yeah. All right. Our next question comes from an upcoming graduate of business school who's getting their MBA. And the question is, what would your advice be for someone who's on the cusp of talking with investors to pitch a business idea during the pandemic?
Ooh. Well, I think that if they invest in you, then I think that you probably are in a good spot. I know a lot of investors that are saying, "Hey, this is an idea time," and it really depends on how great your setup is and how confident they are in you. I don't think if you can make it go right now, I don't think this is a bad time to operate. I just think that it really depends on your financing and what you want to do. I do believe that when you are in school, there's probably not a better time to do a startup because the risk is low. And, a lot of times you can do it without investors. That's how we did it. And it worked out really, really well. Had I not been in school, then it would have been very, very difficult. So good news is it's a great time. The bad news is I know that a lot of investors are tightening their belts. So if you can be one of the lucky ones that gets it, go for it.
Yeah. I would definitely add to that. I think that there's a state of shock that people have been in that will start to come out. I think a lot of investors are looking to be able to invest in a market where, valuations may be a little different. The bigger thing I can say is whether it's during a pandemic or not, there are very few professional investors that invest in ideas, especially for unproven teams. So I often talk about the 5 P's of fundraising: people, product, progress, passion, and persistence. And so unless you have a great team already in place and have built the product and it's getting some traction in market, either early customers or users, and that you are a passionate, deliverer of the message of what you want to do and stay persistent talking to a lot of folks, it's going to be challenging in any environment. And so I just encourage anybody, if you're trying to raise money right now, don't go off of an idea, go off of an actual product that you're getting with progress and a team that people want to make a bet on. All right, the next question comes from Diane. Ryan, can you please talk about how organizations are using Qualtrics to support their employees' childcare needs?
Yeah, I think the state of Seattle is an interesting one. Just being able to almost create a marketplace on who needed childcare with first responders and people working, versus, what facilities had space and people that were interesting. One of the things that I'm seeing right now, on the state and local level and on the company level is, we're having to connect different folks and different functions together. If I look at some of the breakdown in states and some of the opportunities, the supply chains need to come together in a way that they never have. And so this is where Seattle is a great example, where we were able to help them connect the supply with the demand and be able to put that together in a way that, a state couldn't do. And so Qualtrics is allowing that data to come together in one single spot. And then I think, this is also coming out in the company pulse. It's amazing when we went on Facebook with this, it was amazing how many people and organizations came out and said, my company has not even talked to me. They have not even asked, how am I doing? Because I think from what I'm seeing for the companies that are doing it, and they are asking their employees, if childcare is a number one concern, they're going to help with the global solution for that. And if that's going to make the biggest impact, then they'll do it, as opposed to just doing what they think might be the biggest impact, but it doesn't hit the mark. Once again, there's a premium for being right and correct right now. And so my advice to every company, ask your employees on a weekly basis, or every leader, ask your team members. And if there's too many to do it over the phone or in person or video chat, or it's awkward, I just go to Qualtrics, here to help. There's a company pulse there, and you can pull it down. The CEO of SAP got in, pulled it down, and implemented it to her leaders in just a couple of minutes. And so it's pretty easy.
All right, the next question's from Casey, and they ask, where do you see new opportunities or growth in existing opportunities for Qualtrics in the marketplace if there is an upcoming recession?
Yeah, I don't think you really know until you get into those situations. We didn't know in 2008 until we kind of got there. I do believe that there is a massive premium on data right now, in sentiment on how people are feeling. A recession obviously impacts everyone. The larger you are, the harder it is. And then organizations often find out, hey, is the product or the idea mission critical to a company that's got limited budget? It was amazing how that tech stack shifted in 2008 and 9, where a lot of people who thought they were mission critical were kicked out because of budget constraints. Fortunately enough, Qualtrics was in a spot where we became more valuable in that time. I anticipate the same thing. I also look out in tech and say, hey, not everyone's going to be mission critical. You're seeing winners and losers already with Zoom and Slack and other products like that, where the criticality of these products, even during a time like this, actually accelerate. And so you want to be in a situation where the value of your product helps someone get a job done, as if, you go back to the Clayton Christensen speeches, like that's what you want. And oftentimes, certain products, and I'll be honest with you, we have 4 main components of our systems that come together on one platform. We're seeing a massive premium right now on the employee side, right? And this is a prime example. We've got to be able to pivot and lead with that right now, because that's the area of every organization where the most concern is right now. Then it will get into customer, and we're ready to go there, right? But I can already see the flow happening where, are my employees okay? What's going on now with the customer base?
Yeah. All right, last question that we'll have time for now. And I thought this was an appropriate one that a lot of people are probably going through. What would be your advice for those who have been impacted? They're out of work and looking for ways to contribute or add value.
Yeah, first of all, my hearts go out to all of you. I think the advice, Jason, that you brought up, before, where lean on your community, lean on your network. I fundamentally believe that we're seeing the best in people right now, and we're seeing organizations and people try their hardest. And I think, maybe 6 months ago, where you'd reach out to someone and maybe they wouldn't get back to you, or they wouldn't find time. I really, truly believe everyone's trying to make impact. And, I know that all the big breaks that I've had in life have came through other people.
Mhm.
And, I truly believe that. And I believe that, I'm also in a role that I need to be able to be that same person for a lot of people. And I think most people feel that way. So people will help you. And keep trying, keep your chin up. We're going to get through this, and we'll get through it stronger. This is just what happens. And whether it's COVID or the housing crisis, this is business, and this is how it rolls. And there's ups and there's downs. And unfortunately, this is a little bit of the game we sign up for. And but that doesn't make it easier on any of us. um, I'm watching people in Utah, who are having people pass away from the virus and things like that. It's hard, it's real, and it's hard. So first and foremost, be safe. And then we're just going to have to grind and work as hard as we can. If you were working hard before, you need to turn up the volume. We all need to be working harder. I don't think I've sat down at a desk like this in 10 years, for 12 or 15 hours a day. And this is the new world. And so something will come up for you. And so I think just God bless. I mean, that's all I can say.
And I'll just say, there are a lot of people hurting right now and going through hard times, whether it's their health or their career. I think you said really thoughtfully before, Ryan, uncertainty is one of the scariest things of this all. And I think we just need to all be in it together, and I would definitely encourage folks that are going through a hard time in their career, just ask for help. Ask for help from your former employer, ask for help from your coworkers, ask for help from your network. I think there are a lot of us that want to do everything we can to support folks, even in a tough time right now. And the other thing I'd say is, make a bet on the right people. And I've always tried to advise folks in their career, pick a set of company leaders or a manager over just the sexy company. And I think if right now you go and add value to the right folks, even if they're not immediately in a position to hire you or rehire you, they're going to notice that over time. And just like Ryan, you gave those licenses when you could have used that money to that individual, that came back 10 times fold for you. And so, I think that if we make a bet on doing the right things for the right folks, they're going to try to repay us, whenever they can. And so you've got a lot of right folks on your team, Ryan. It's been amazing to work with folks like Shonda and Nicole on your HR team. You've got an incredible company culture. I've been, watching Qualtrics grow for many years now. And as a fellow, founder, it's just incredibly impressive to see what you and your team have built the company. Obviously, congratulations on the acquisition from SAP, and amazing things ahead. And thank you for sharing your time and perspective today. You have an incredibly busy schedule, thousands of employees to make sure you're taken care of. And so we all really appreciate you and the Qualtrics team taking time out to share your perspective with what folks are going through. We'll have this session recorded and online for folks in a day or so. So we'll send out the link to everybody, and really thank you. And as you said, God bless, and wishing everybody health and as much safety and success as possible in this time. And so Ryan, just wanted to pass it over to you for any last thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Just our hearts and thoughts go with everyone right now. I know this is a hard time, even our own employee base. This is challenging, but we'll get through it. And let's just dig a little deeper. We got more gears that we didn't know we have, right? Everyone's got them. Just let's just get used to operating with those. And now's the time to show your employers, to show your company, and just be all in on whatever you do. So happy to share. Hopefully it's helpful. And let's go get it.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Stay safe, everybody. and good luck in the days and weeks to come.
Thanks.